Welcome to the 5 Minutes Show Recaps. Today we are going to explain Stranger Things Episode 2. Remember that laser the Russians were using to open a portal to the upside-down world beneath the Starcourt Mall? Remember how Joyce blew it up and Hopper right along with it? Well, in this episode we learn what anybody who watched Season 3's post-credits scene, any Season 4 trailers, or read any pre-release interviews already knew. Hopper did not blow up. Hopper is alive. He jumped out of the way, apparently. Thought it would be a little more complicated. Anyways, he's alive and mostly unscathed. Unfortunately, the Russians quickly scoop him up and begin to torture the ever-loving hell out of him. They want to know whom he works for. They want to know who Joyce is. He gives up nothing and they give up on him, shipping off his battered, bruised body to Kamchatka, a brutal prison with its own dark secrets. This is something Joyce and Murray slowly come to learn after poring over the bizarre letter she found in the Russian doll. They call the number on the note and speak to a mysterious Russian who says Hopper is stuck, but that he can get him unstuck if they deliver $40,000 to a colleague in Alaska. Who is this man? By analyzing the audio and drawing upon linguistic clues, Murray speculates that the man is a prison guard that was very likely bribed by Hopper. Joyce, never one to hesitate, sprints to the bank to get the money. Elsewhere in California, Mike arrives clad in what Argyle deems a garishly vibrant Ocean Pacific beachwear.
That's a rad shirt, man. Ocean Pacific?
They head to Rinkomania, where a sweet reunion turns sour after the arrival of Angela and her denim-clad cronies. As Wipeout blares over the speakers, the bullies surround Eleven before dousing her with a milkshake. As she licks her wounds, Will reveals to Mike that Eleven has been lying to him. He also says he feels like a third wheel.
Well, she was lying to you, Mike. Straight to your face ever since you got here. And I've been a total third wheel all day. It's been miserable.
Adding that Mike's made no real efforts to sustain their friendship. They continue to argue as Eleven emerges and confronts Angela, demanding she say sorry and tell Mike that they really are friends. When Angela cruelly rebuffs her, taking a shot at Hopper in the process, Eleven snaps. With no powers to draw on, she grabs a skate and cracks Angela in the nose, drawing blood. A bad day just got immeasurably worse. In Hawkins, Max wakes from a nightmare to find cops speeding towards Eddie's trailer. Outside, she sees Chrissy's mangled body. Later, she recalls three things to Dustin: the oddness of seeing Eddie and Chrissy together, the strange way her trailer's lights flickered in the night, and how right after they flickered, she heard Eddie scream and saw him flee in his van. Could he have killed Chrissy? Dustin is unconvinced, and he and Max go to Family Video with a mission: use the store's surplus of phones to call Eddie's friends and find out where he went. With Steve and Robin's help, they narrow their search to the seemingly empty lake house of a drug dealer, Reefer Rick. A petrified Eddie is hiding in the boathouse. He tells the four of them about what happened to Chrissy, assuming they'll think he's crazy. They tell him about the upside down. Not so crazy anymore. News reports of Chrissy's death are rippling throughout Hawkins. The Tigers, for example, are recovering after a hard night of drinking. Lucas, nursing his first hangover, is in particularly rough shape. When the cops show up with questions about Chrissy and her relationship to Eddie, Jason is shocked. Chrissy didn't do drugs and would never hang out with a freak like Eddie. Boiling over with anger, Jason gathers the Tigers and posits a theory. He's read about Dungeons and Dragons, the way it encourages Satanism and blurs fantasy and reality in the minds of its players.
I mean, it's been happening all over the country. It's like an epidemic, and I think Eddie, he's the wrong type of person.
Adding that Eddie, who's clearly engaged in demonic rituals, will kill again. In fact, they should pursue the entire Hellfire Club, which he deems a cult. When Lucas tries to interject and say it's not a cult, just a club, he's looked at with suspicion, leading him to relent and deny his own involvement. Popularity, it's a hell of a drug. Nancy, investigating the murder with Fred, finds the devil in the air too. Nancy talks to Eddie's Uncle Wayne, who has his own theory. It wasn't Eddie who killed Chrissy, but Victor Creel. Decades back, Creel was said to have killed his entire family, cutting their eyes out. Chrissy's eyes were gone too. Creel's locked in Penhurst Mental Hospital. Has been for years. Maybe he escaped?
He's a real boogeyman.
Boogeyman is one word for whoever's terrorizing Hawkins. Fred learns as much when he begins seeing monstrous visions of his own. First, a leering cop grows tentacles and accuses him of being a murderer. Later, he sees the same grandfather clock that Chrissy did before she died. It's surrounded by rotting, zombie-like figures who echo the cop's accusations of murder. Fred eventually finds himself on a lonely, dark road, where a flaming car brings back traumatic memories. He was in a car accident the year before. He lived and the other driver died. It's unclear if he actually was responsible for the other driver's death, but that means nothing to the humanoid creature that approaches him.
I want you to join me.
Fred dies just as Chrissy did, bones snapping and eyes sucking into his skull as he levitates high above the ground. Boogeyman isn't good enough for Dustin. Dustin, lest we forget, has a talent for naming the many creatures of Stranger Things. For this one, he draws upon Eddie's grand creation, Vecna.
A spellcaster. A dark wizard.